Do you want to know a hard truth about being a bloke these days? If you're a bloke and you're in a relationship, or if you're a bloke and you're thinking about ever being in a relationship with a woman, this is some hard truth that's going to be hard to accept, but it is a fact, and it occurs every time, every day. Remember back in the days, or remember once upon a time, that you could text somebody, how you were feeling, or if you were breaking up, you could have some breakup texting, and it'll be, it'll be intense, it'll be emotional. And, that was okay. That was, kind of like what happens, like, F you for leaving me, or why are you leaving me? And, there'd be some text for a few days backwards and forward, like, what happens in relationships, correct? Wrong. You can't do that anymore, mate. If you're a bloke, you got to be so effing careful of what you text your missus, or what you put in your text messages or in Facebook or anything in writing. So careful. Like, if you text her more than 5 times a day, that can be coercive control. Okay? If you text her and tell her, why are you leaving me? Why have you done this to me? Why have you cheated on me? And it's like maybe 4 or 5 texts in a day, coercive control. If you tell your ex, hey, by the way, the children, you left them alone at somebody's house and they were really scared, don't do that. Like, I can't believe I have to tell you this, but you shouldn't be doing that as a parent. Coercive control. If you say, hey, you're an effing beehive for leaving me, how dare you? Or how could you do this to me? Coercive control. Coercive control is pretty much now anything that causes a woman to feel bad for her actions, for her behavior. We have come to such a point in society now that women, it is just so hard for women to be held accountable for anything, for any of their behavior. It's like women can just do pretty much anything. They can get, literally they can get away with murder. And they will not be held accountable. They can plead insanity. They can even say that they was under so much stress because of a man that that's why they did what they had to do. And they'll get off. They won't have to pay their dues to society. Or at least not here in Australia. In Australia, recently, they've passed in New South Wales. It's coming to Victoria, and it's in, I think it's Queensland, but it recently passed this year in New South Wales, where coercive control is now punishable by up to 10 years. So any text messages, any kind of text messages that had any kind of emotion in them, any kind of negative emotion in them, because of the negative things that she's been doing or even saying to you, will be considered or can be considered coercive control. And you'll be the one that has to pay the price, not her. So let's say she cheats on you and you tell her off in a message. She could call the police, put an intervention out, an order on you, and force you to do a men's behavior change course or anger management course for doing that. The fact that she cheated and, and left, or the fact that she did anything wrong, nobody's going to care about that. Morality is not in the court's focus. It's not in the court's, it's not the court's problem. Morality is not the court's problem. They don't punish or prosecute immoral behavior. I mean, what is considered immoral behavior these days? Because, a lot of the times that people end up in family court is because they've run off with somebody else. They run off with the brother, they run off with the waitress, they run off with the secretary, they run off with the boss, whatever, right? That's why people end up in family court. There's a big dispute, somebody, did the dirty on the other, and now. So that's not here in Australia, it's not going to be considered as like an immoral thing that needs to be focused on, and that has to be like the whole case that somebody did the dirty. No, nothing. Don't even mention it. If it's happened to you, I'm sorry it's happened to you, but don't even mention it. My point is, guys, no matter how much you think you trust the woman that you love, okay, people change. People change. And if you do something that really pisses her off, or if she's the kind of person that really doesn't like taking responsibility, or you have never held her accountable for the things that she's done, because even when you've tried, it's been met with disdain and met with even more punishment, you're going to have to ask yourself whether that person, whether that female is worth staying with. And if you are going to break up with her, you got to do it so carefully. So carefully. Pretty much ignore her. Let her know in a text message that it's over and ignore her. You cannot say anything in writing these days that can be considered like emotional. Because when it comes from a man, you're the one that's going to get in trouble. And I'll say something, I'll even say something further that's really going to hit hard as well. But it's just the truth. I don't like the truth. You're not going to like the truth either. This truth. I do like the truth, but I don't like this truth. That is, if you're having an argument at home behind closed doors, right, with your partner, with your female partner, and she starts screaming, or you both start screaming because these things happen, you know, you wouldn't be human if that didn't happen. You can't scream as loud as she can. I mean, you can, but if the neighbors hear you and they get their little phone and record it and they ring the police, you're the one that's going to get pulled out of that house. The police will put the intervention order on you for yelling. Especially, you know, if you've got shitty neighbors, or especially if your ex wants to punish you for something. You can't even scream in your own house. You can't even, it is difficult these days for men to be masculine, to have that masculine energy. And then women complain that there's not enough men out there. It's because some of you women do not know what a real man is, because you will never allow him to be one. Because when he tries to hold you accountable, you're not going to let him. You don't want to. Society has told you that you can do whatever you want to do without any repercussions. And if there are going to be, if somebody's going to give you some repercussions, especially like a male, you can call the police on them. That's the world that we are in today. So, boys, men out there, it's a sucky truth. Start getting used to it now. If you have a son that's a teenager, if you're a teenager, if you're a young person, if you're an old person, start telling them now that text messages, or even like the way they behave in public, or like because people have phones now, they're going to be very careful. Never text when they're angry, because it can be used against them later on. Even if those text messages happened like 10 years ago, it can still be used. People still use it in court as a way to prove, you know, their false narrative. It's a hard truth, I know, but it happens every day in the work that I'm in. Oh, if you wanted to know the work that I do, I'm a father's rights defense coach. I'm not a lawyer. Kind of have a very poor view of lawyers, family law lawyers, for example. Kind of think that most of them are pretty sucky. I could become a lawyer if I wanted to. Who isn't saying that I'm not trying to, but what I'm trying to say is that I'm a father's rights defense coach. I work with fathers, helping them get to the other side, help them get shared responsibility and custody of their children the right way. Okay? So, I hope that helps somebody out there. I'll see you soon.